Hi folks, today I'd like to show you how I use my Rodecaster Pro and PodMic to record audiobooks and meet ACX requirements using Audacity. So what I've done already is I've already prepared a couple of test files in the WAV format which I recorded on the Rodecaster Pro, and I also have some settings that I'd like to show you so you can get an idea of what settings I've had the unit set up as to try and meet those ACX requirements. So first of all is the PodMic selection as the microphone. This is obviously because I have the PodMic with the Rodecaster Pro, but you can use any of these microphones, whether they be Rode or otherwise, or whatever you have available or your Rodecaster set up as, condenser, dynamic. All the settings are in there for the ones that are here, and so mine's set up to the PodMic. The level I have my PodMic set at is 37. I think it might be slightly low because my RMS always tends to be slightly on the softer side when meeting ACX requirements, but I am able to sort that out post-processing. The gain I have set, obviously mic 1, I have set midway. I found that that works best for the Pro. And the most important one is the effects settings. I've recorded several files with the effects off and the effects on, with the effects only with noise gate, and I found that certainly for me, for my voice and for the setup I've got, that using the effects as you see here and already processed coming out of the Rodecaster and into my DAW seems to work very well for me. So I've got the compressor, the high pass filter, the de-esser noise gate, and also the oral exciter and big bottom and all the processing on. As I say, I have tried it in different versions, but for me and for my voice it seems to work quite well, and it seems to be less of an effort to meet ACX requirements with all of this already processed coming out of the Pro. You may find that it's different, so feel free obviously to play around with the effects and see how that works for you. So just a reminder of the ACX requirements, submission requirements highlighted down here for you. This is on their web page. The files must measure between -23 dB and -18 dB RMS and have a -3 dB peak value and a maximum -60 dB noise floor. And the noise floor obviously will relate to where you are and your recording setup. And the exported MP3 file must be 192 or higher. I use 256, but that's just a personal preference. Constant bit rate at 44.1. So having recorded the file on the Rodecaster Pro with all the settings I've shown you earlier, I'm going to start up Audacity. The other thing to mention about Audacity are the plugins. I have several plugins already in Audacity, and one of them is the ACX check, and that's really important because that obviously tells you or gives you an idea of what how your file's meeting the requirements. So that's an important plugin. So if you haven't already got that in Audacity, you might want to go ahead and get that and import the plugin. So what I do is I take my test file and I just pop it into Audacity. One of the things I do initially is the format I put to 24-bit, and then I highlight the file and I take a look at what I've got. So I go up here into the Analyze menu and click on ACX check, and it comes back giving me quite a wealth of information. So it tells me it's a mono track, which is good, and it tells me I've passed 2 out of 3 requirements, so the peak level's fine. But like I suspected, the RMS level is low, so quite a bit softer than is needed, and the noise floor is fine. So it then tells you why you failed to meet the requirements. So it's a good set of information there for you. So you can either do this after you've edited the file or before. There's no preference for me, but one of the first things I tend to want to do is to normalize the file, and often just doing this works for me, although I may have to play around with a few more settings to get the file the way I need it. So I normalize the peak to -3.5, sometimes -4, which is higher than the requirements, and immediately when you do that, you see that the waveform increases. and then I'll go back to ACX checker, the Analyze menu, and see what I've got. And so in this case, as you can see, peak levels, RMS levels, and noise floor all pass ACX requirements. So I'm quite happy with that. Sometimes you will find that the peak level gets pushed up, or the RMS level is not quite right. And some of the effects that I play with are the amplify, loudness, normalization, and normalize. And eventually I do get the file to meet ACX requirements. So, assuming that I've edited my file and I'm happy with the requirements being met, I will export as an MP3 and rename my file. Obviously I have it set at constant bitrate, 256, and force export to mono. So I hope that's helped, and thank you for listening.